few weeks ago, I was invited to speak at a coding bootcamp and give advice to the bootcamp students as they're about to graduate and start looking for software engineering jobs. And the reason I was invited to speak at this bootcamp is because I'm a self-taught software engineer that teaches beginners like yourself how to code and helps them to get jobs as software engineers in my own coding bootcamp. You can find more information about that in the description below. So if you're already in a coding bootcamp, or if you're thinking about joining a coding bootcamp and learning to code, then most of the questions that the students in this video are going to be asking, those questions are going to be very helpful when it comes to helping you on your own coding journey. So definitely make sure you pay attention and watch this video all the way to the end so you can get really good tips and advice on how to land a job as a software engineer. Before we get into the video, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you can keep seeing more technical insights like this to help you on your coding journey. Now, let's get into the video. Yeah, that's true. My first company, I was the only software engineer at the company. It was a startup of 5 people, me, the CEO, and 3 people in sales. So I was essentially in charge of managing the whole web application, and I also built the desktop application from scratch. So basically just kind of doing like the full stack of everything. It might sound overwhelming, but it's actually not that bad, right? Like, especially if they know that you're a junior engineer, you can't like hire a junior engineer as the only engineer at your company and then have this weird expectation that the person's just going to be able to solve everything, right? So just kind of like keep that in mind, and don't put any unnecessary pressure on yourself based on assumptions that you think that your manager might be making. All right. I left that company mainly because it was my first engineering role, and I knew that me being the only engineer on the team, that I'm not like really learning how to work with other engineers, and because I don't have access to like seniors, etc., that I wasn't really growing or just kind of learning the things that I wanted to learn. But apart from that, I still have fun, because when you're on a team that small, it feels like family. Even though you're not family, it still kind of feels like it because everybody's friends, everybody knows each other. Lunch is always free, so it's just kind of like those like aspects of it made it very, very fun for me. So yeah, and working on a smaller team actually gives you more things that you are doing that you can put on your resume to help you land the next role. You get, so that's like a really big thing that you have to consider, because as soon as I wanted to leave, I reached out to a recruiter on Monday, and I had an interview on Wednesday, final interview Friday, and I had an offer 3 hours later, and I left all in 1 week, right? Because it's like I was the only engineer, meaning I built everything. Right? Like I literally built everything. So my like resume and my experience there really just kind of spoke for itself. And that made it a lot easier to get, something else. Contrary to when I worked on a bigger team, I felt like I only kind of did maybe like 2 to 3 things that to me didn't really feel meaningful enough to really confidently just put on my resume and have me move as easily. So even in that role, I was still referring to my initial role as a reference, So there's like pros and cons with everything essentially. Yeah, that was the biggest thing. Twitter. Twitter. So I would actually just tweet about different issues that I was having, and you will be very surprised as to what type of people reply back to you when you ask for help and you just kind of talk about the things that you're working on. Because one time I was messaging about something that I was struggling with, and somebody responded back to me on Twitter that ended up being employee number 1 at Dropbox. Like a random stranger that I never met was like literally helping me. I was like, wow, this is crazy. You were employee number 1, engineer number 1 at Dropbox. Like, that's crazy. So, but then just try to find different communities as well, like meetup groups, etc. Because you can still poach your questions into all those different places and have other engineers that help you as well. So for me, like that was how I was actually able to just kind of like address a bunch of issues anytime that I got stuck. So anytime that you're job searching for entry level roles, one, filter by jobs that were posted within like the last 30 to 45 days max, right? And then I wouldn't recommend trying to apply to jobs that are asking for more than 4 years of experience. Anything four or less is going to be typically open to more junior engineers. All right, because like four is like mid level and junior. So anything four and less, apply. And then don't just like apply online and that's it. Like try to find 2 points of contact at the company using like LinkedIn and follow up with them. Like you always want to make sure that you try to reach a real human being at whatever company you're applying to. Cause you know it's like really easy to just easy apply on LinkedIn or to just apply online and think you've done something, but you kind of really haven't. All you've done is just put your resume in like a black hole where you don't even know if a real human being is gonna look at your resume. So just always make sure to try to follow up. All right. Interestingly enough, even though my first job I was the only engineer, the onboarding process has kind of really been the same through all of the companies that I've been in. And I say all because I used to change jobs every 11 months, not on purpose, but it did end up working in my favor because each job gave me like a new salary. But anyways, so pretty much what like happens typically everywhere is you get your laptop, HR stuff, etc. Uh, and you are given access to the code base on GitHub. And the next step is to just kind of really get clone down the code base and then try to get the application set up and running on your personal laptop. And you will almost always have at least one person that you can ask questions to because you are definitely going to have questions about how to set the application up because there are probably like private keys, variables, etc. that you need to just get everything working. So someone will be there to help explain all of that stuff to you and to just kind of walk you through the actual code base. And that's what typically happens in terms of like your first few moments on the engineering team. And then after that, it's just I guess you are typically given maybe some like small bug or feature or something to just kind of look at, or you are tasked with just trying to understand a certain aspect of the code base, and you go from there. A like hack that you can kind of use to help you to start learning somewhat about the code is when you get access to the GitHub of the company, click on the pull request section and just look at different pull requests, look at the commits, the comments on there, and that'll really help you to like kind of see, okay, so they were like adding this feature and this is where they made this change and that change. And that'll help you to start getting acclimated to the actual code base so that you can hit the ground running a lot faster. And something that you have to kind of keep in mind, I think, have y'all talked about imposter syndrome at all, or just kind of feeling doubt, etc.? Oh, okay, good, good. No, like the thing that you have to understand. Well, from my experience, I kind of realize most people don't really know anything. Like half the time, it's like everybody is just like you. They are trying to figure stuff out as they go. Just because someone has like a high title, even like senior engineers don't know everything. And even then, they like might be senior, but they only kind of understand one domain, etc. Like everybody has valuable insights and input. So don't feel like your voice needs to be quiet or etc. Or don't be scared to ask questions because even though you might think a question is dumb, half the time the person you're asking might not even know or might have asked the same question before you got there. So And honestly, this like first couple years, few years, like ask all the quote unquote dumb questions, because unless you plan on making your first company your lifelong company, which typically doesn't happen anymore, right? Like that means that you're gonna take all the knowledge and inputs that you get from here to your next company, and you aren't gonna be asking those same dumb questions in the next place. And even when you ask dumb questions, man, a day or two later, the person you asked is not gonna remember. Like they're probably on Twitter and they're distracted by something else, you know. So honestly, that is the job of a software engineer. Like I tell my students all the time, you are a glorified researcher that has to learn how to Google effectively, and then you know, basically like programming is like the tools that you are using to build your solutions. And Google is what you are using to kind of like understand how to go about building those things out. So you Googling is going to be a big part of your job, especially in that very first year. For sure, for sure. Especially at this level when you're like junior, almost all juniors in every part of the world are running into the same problems that you're running into. So as soon as you start typing your question into Google, Google's already like, don't worry, I got this. And it's trying to autofill it for you know, because somebody else has already asked it. So don't be shy. HHS, Hungry, Humble, Smart. I don't have a acronym, but I'll follow up on that. So the way that all of that kind of shows up in interviews for me is that, you know, if I ask someone a question that they don't know like the actual answer to and they just stop at I don't know, that's typically not good. Something that you should be doing inside of interviews is anytime that someone asks you a question that you don't know, it is perfectly okay to say, I'm not sure. But always follow that up with I'm not sure, but I'll look into that and get back to you. Right? Because that now shows me exactly what Buddy just said, that you are hungry, you know. And also just someone that'll be a good teammate. You know, like we perfectly understand that we are going to have to work with you, hold your hand a bit. So it is very important that we are working with someone that doesn't have a big ego, that's like someone that is friendly and going to be a good teammate that can work easily with the team, not someone that's arguing back and forth, etc. Because I've actually had interviews where the candidate is like afraid to be wrong, so they're just like arguing back. Well, if you're arguing with me in an interview, I'm not trying to work with you anyways, you know. So just keep that in mind. I think a good rule of thumb is anytime that you get stuck on something at work, spend 30 minutes to an hour trying to figure it out on your own. And then once you get to an hour, then ask someone. But if you find yourself you're spending 5 hours, it's days now. Now that's too hungry because you are now slowing down the team. You get what I'm saying? Like that is when it now kind of becomes like an actual issue. Like we want you to ask for help, but just make sure that you have tried to actually figure it out on your own first. All right, so that's all. I just focus on the technologies that I know because I'm not trying to waste time looking at a job application just to see that it's asking about technologies that I don't have any projects in, I don't know yet, etc. Right? So I think for y'all it's like React.js, Python, and Django, etc. Like those are kind of like the main keywords that I would be using in my job search, because then I can now see job postings for the exact tools that I have experience in, that I have projects in, that I can actually speak to. Because I'm not trying to learn a new programming language just to interview at company A, and then for company B, I got to learn something else, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so really, that was kind of like the main way that I go about job searching. If you join a team with QA engineers on there, those are really good people to talk to help you understand the code base and how stuff works at the company. So they can like really help you to kind of really understand what's going on with the application and help you understand what to focus on. in terms of just code overall. So if you have like an annoying engineer that you don't like talking to, etc., the QA team is another resource that, and really you should just be friends with everyone, but especially them, you should be very friendly with them. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I think from my experience that projects help you to get the interview, but once you get into the interview, I don't think that they really spend too much time on those projects because like they'll typically have their own project that they'll want you to do, or just they will then use their interview process to then see where you're at technically versus spending too much time on like your own projects. But I do think it is important to have projects on your portfolio because everyone else applying is most likely going to have projects. So if you don't, like, why would I even look this way? So I would recommend to try to have projects. I don't think that you need to have a bunch of projects, like 2 projects, no more than 3 really is good enough. But I think something that also helps is just like, I'm not sure how much y'all kind of like practice this, but just getting comfortable talking out loud about code helps. Because something that I tell my students is any code that they turn into me, I have no clue if they wrote it or Chat GPT wrote it, right? Like, I do not know. The only way I can really gauge their understanding is based on how they talk about the code, and that is going to come through in the interview process. So keep that in mind. When you're searching, I wouldn't really search based on titles. I would just search based on the technology, like Buddy said. Because if you're searching based on title and you put software engineer, there's no telling what programming languages that they're looking for. So for y'all, the main technologies y'all have been working with are React.js, Python, and Django. Those are really kind of like the main technologies that I would be searching for jobs by, and then adjusting for years of experience, posted date, etc. And don't feel like you have to know every single technology on the job posting. Like, no, just focus on kind of the main technology. As long as you have that, you're good, right? Like, do not count yourself out before applying. Apply and let them count you out. Because I see way too many people get in their heads like, oh, I don't hit all 50 bullet points. I, Honestly, I've been in ClickFunnels for over a year now. I don't even think I hit all, just all the bullet points, So just keep that in mind. Like, the main technology is kind of really the thing you should focus on. And those, like React.js is the main technology on the front end. Python and Django is typically the main technologies on the back end. Everything else is just tools that support those. And those tools are things that you'll end up learning anyways, no matter where you go. A way that you can show that you're a learner and that you're hungry, like Buddy was saying, is if you get into the interview process and they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, it's perfectly okay for you not to know the answer. Like, not everyone knows the answer. Half the time, sometimes the people asking you the interview questions, they don't even know the answer. Or before they ask you, they might have Googled the answer to the question before they ask you. So don't add all this extra kind of pressure onto yourself. But the main point that I was trying to make there is, even if you don't know the answer to something, don't just stop there. Put a comma and say, I'm not sure, but I'll look into that and I'll get back to you. Because that now separates you from the pack, because in a junior role, the main thing people are looking for is someone that's going to be a good teammate, but someone that's going to be working hard to try to figure stuff out. Like, that's what you're doing as a junior, learning and trying to figure stuff out. So if I ask you something, you're like, oh, I don't know, and you just stop there, it already lets me know, all right, yeah, like as soon as this person gets stuck, they're going to be banging on my desk for every little thing without trying to figure it out on their own first. And when it comes to trying to figure stuff out, a good rule of thumb, like when you get stuck at work, try to spend like 30 minutes to an hour trying to figure it out first on your own. Once you get up to an hour, then ask for help. Because one of the first things the person you're asking for help is most likely going to ask you is, what have you tried? If you don't have an answer to that, I'm going to be looking at you like, all right, maybe you should go try a few things and then come back. The easiest way to network, the hack to networking, because I don't know about y'all. I don't know. I probably seem outgoing, but I don't like walking into random rooms and I'm expected to just walk up to random strangers. I don't even like people in my space like that. But the hack to networking that I've always used, where you can kill three birds with one stone, you shouldn't kill birds, but a thing that you should do is volunteer. So let's say that there's some tech meetup or event, some tech event that you want to go to. What I used to do is reach out to the organizer and ask, "Hey, is there anything that y'all need help with?" Even something as simple as setup. And there's typically something that they need help with, right? So volunteer, because then once you actually volunteer, now the actual organizer sees that you're someone that they can count on, that shows up on time and actually helps. Now that person has a reason to want to help you. Period. Right? And then two, when you volunteer with different orgs and events, the people that attend those events, they now associate you with that org slash event, and instead of you having to approach them awkwardly, they approach you, asking you questions. So now you're networking with everyone. And three, kind of like the most important one, most of these orgs and events are typically bringing some guest speaker, right? If you're a volunteer, you'll have more access to the guest speaker than just a regular person in the audience. More so than not, you might even be assigned to help get the guest speaker situated and set up, right? So now the guest speaker knows you. They've actually worked with you, and they now have more of a reason to work with you, right? So you basically tackle three things just by volunteering at one event. So, oh, and you can let people know that you're job searching, right? So now the whole audience knows, hey, etc. I think to answer your question, it kind of depends on what your goal is. If it's like a personal interest of yours, cool, you can go learn Angular 2.0 for like anything that you want. But if you're thinking that, oh, I should learn all these different technologies to help me in the job search, that's actually not the best move. The best move is to stay focused on the core technologies that y'all have learned, which is React, Python, and Django. Like those are the core tools and technologies, and everything else really like supports those at these companies. So when you're job searching, I wouldn't be searching in terms of titles either. I would just put those technologies. I put React JS, and then I would look for jobs with that, Python, Django, etc. Uh, and I wouldn't really apply to any jobs that's asking for more than 4 years of experience. Anything that's looking for 0 to 4 is going to be open to juniors and mid-level engineers. So that's what you should be looking at. And I would also adjust my filter to really only apply to jobs that were posted no later than 30 days to 45 days, maybe 60 max, etc. And then after applying to a job online, you want to try to follow up with 1 to 2 people at that company on LinkedIn or somewhere. But don't just apply online and think that you've done something. Like, a human being might not even look at your application. So the goal is to get in front of a human being.
So how do you follow up with that human being without like feeling weird about it? Like,
It's okay to feel weird, but still press send. Just press send.
confidence?
Yeah, that's all. Like, people like feeling like they're helping people. Like, I don't know too many people that don't want to help, quote unquote, especially when money is not involved. But the people that you're following up with, you should try to follow up with someone in HR, right? Like, if it's not someone in HR, like some engineer on the team, so it's like those people are not gonna be weirded out by you approaching them. Like that's pretty normal. If you're approaching someone in marketing and advertising, all right, it's like who are you and why are you asking me about engineering stuff? Yeah, so don't really stress about that at all.
No
Yeah.
introvert.
Um, hey Sarah, I just applied to the UI front end engineering role at ClickFunnels. I'm really excited about this. Here's my resume. Um, Do you have some time to talk more about this role, etc.? You know, so don't think too much into it. But something that we talked about before, you can also ask Chat GPT to give you some tips. No, I'm so serious. Okay, good. I'm very serious about that. You know, so don't just don't write like a very long thing, because something that I always tell my students is, if you're writing some kind of follow up email, and I open the email, and at first glance it looks like a dissertation, I'm not reading it. Like, I'm not reading it.
Your time is more precious than that.
Yeah, so just use spaces to actually make it look less uh what's the word I'm looking for? Dense. God bless you. Yeah. And that's it. I hope you were taking notes and you got a lot of really good actionable insight from this interview. Now remember, if you are just starting your coding journey and you're not sure what to learn and what projects to build, make sure you check the description so that you can get my coding curriculum that's packed with tutorial videos, free interactive tutorials, practice problems, and projects to help you to start learning the basics. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and comment below any questions that you have, and I'll get back to you.